It is a beautiful Thursday, May 21st, which means we get to talk science around here in our common good life with astrophysicist and professor and pastor Paul Wallace. Paul, I was thinking that I would do some joke about, an astrophysicist and a pastor, da da da. But you
Yeah.
both of those. You
Yeah,
are
yeah.
the
Yeah.
punchline. You are the
I am that's correct. My wife would agree with you. I am the punchline.
Hey, I am glad people are along. I'm in Minneapolis, sitting down. Paul Wallace in Decatur, Georgia. Are you at home or are you in the fancy office that they give you over
I'm
there
at
at
the
the
college.
university?
I'm at the
Okay.
college. Everybody's at home. Whole family's at home. We have a small house.
That's why you're gone. Yeah, yeah. Remember when your kids were little and you used to try to get out of bedtime in the same way? Hey, I've got a meeting about 7:30. It's a
Yeah.
little secret that a lot of parents have that they try to get out of bedtime sometimes.
Yeah,
My
boy. I was
my
just
wife and
thinking
I.
this morning, thinking how glad I am that my kids are. Our youngest is about to turn 13. I'm like, man, I'm so glad that.
Yeah. But then I'll tell you, we have two little grandkids, a 5-year-old and a 1.5, just over 1.5-year-old. And now all of a sudden I'm like, can I come over for bedtime? Can I come over to your grandparents for
I
bedtime?
bet you're a great grandpa.
I try to be. I want to be. Hey, I'm wearing this little outfit, Paul, which people who are familiar with our podcast, they might say, oh, Doug has his biking gear on again. Not just because it's sort of fashionable, overly tight polyester.
It is fashionable. You have to admit,
Wear with a Captain America theme to it. But I'm wearing it particularly today because I want to recruit you, Paul Wallace, and thereby recruit all those who are listening and watching to join us in what we call the We the People ride for common good border practices and immigration. We are going to be putting together an effort this fall to raise awareness all over the country that we need to have common good approaches to our border and to our immigration. And we don't currently have that. We're of the opinion we need to be recognizing that immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, all of those people, they make us who we are, we the people of this country, the indigenous peoples of this country, the newcomers, those families who have been here for generations and decades. All of us make up we the people, and we need a constant inflow. And our immigration and our border practices have just been put together in a way that I don't think really stress and bring about that common good. So we want to raise awareness around this, and not just through the political angles that we do all the time, not just through the issue angles, but through personal stories. So we're asking people all over the country between September 10th and November 14th to consider hosting a We the People bike ride in your community. Churches, community leaders, biking groups join together with refugee, asylum-seeking immigrant groups and do a bike ride. Let people meet each other. Maybe it's a little kid bike ride that just goes around the block.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a big, long bike ride. Maybe you get a bunch of people from your church on a Sunday afternoon, on September 12th, and you all go out on a bike ride together, and you do this, like, classically human thing of play and of engagement with each other. Well, as a part of that, I'll tell you, Paul, September 10th to November 14th, that window, some of us are going to do a longer bike ride. We're going to start in San Diego, California, and we are going to bike east across the country to St. Augustine, Florida. A just over 3,200-mile bike ride.
A little longer, he says.
It's just a tinge. It's going to take us 65, maybe 67 days. We're going to travel along the border from San Diego all the way down to Brownsville, Texas, and then make our way across the rest of Texas and along the coast from San Diego to St. Augustine, from saint to saint, traveling with the saints.
You're going to go like through the desert. Where are you going to stay on the Texas border? I mean, I know there's towns, but my God, Doug.
we are gonna bike 50 miles a day roughly, and sometimes we will have to take our little support vehicles and travel a few more miles to get to a hotel or to a campground. People have a chance to stay in a hotel, or they can stay in campgrounds. Now, I'm going to travel the entire distance. That's my commitment. But we're asking people.
I'm sure you are.
But we're asking people to put teams together. Maybe a church, maybe an organization, maybe a school, maybe a group of friends, and they say, let's tag team this thing. Like, I'll take 3 days, and somebody else can take a week, and somebody can plug in for 10 days. And they'll join us along the route. they'll bike their portion, then somebody else picks up for them. And in this way, you start to tell this really big story. Now, we know not everybody can get down to the border. They can't be traveling. So we're going to share those experiences because we want people to meet these wonderful people who live and move across the border, the people who are suffering from our non-common good border practices. We're going to have events on both sides of the border with our Mexican friends and families and on the U.S. side. We're going to travel that path in order to tell the story. I'm super excited about this. So we'd love for groups.
You're going to keep on going beyond the border. You're going to keep on going like through Louisiana and Alabama and Florida.
Yeah, then after we get done with the border wall, as we like to refer to in the Common Good world, that big, obnoxious, ugly, crude border wall that has been built not only by the Trump administration, which they didn't, but also by the Obama administration, also funded by the Bush administration, also thought about by the Clinton administration. We've had bad border policy for a very long time, and we want to raise the focus on it. So we'll be traveling along that border wall for some period of the time, a little over 5 weeks, and then the next 4 weeks we will be traveling across the coast, and then our focus will shift to refugees and asylum seekers that are all over the country as well as we travel along the coast. And part of the reason why we do this is to get that's what we're looking for from people. We want people to stop for a minute and say, hold on a minute, you're doing what? Now, why does someone want to do these sort of stunts, these kind of step out there and do something unusual actions and activities? Well, it's because there's a lot of ideas that compete for our attention, and we want people to pay attention to issues that matter. And sometimes to capture people's attention, you got to put a little glitz. You got to put a little wow. Yeah. You got to put a little pizzazz.
Yeah.
It's what we need to do. So we're, and also I just think it's really great to be able to be so close to the people along the border. Proximity means so much. Being on the ground, being close, being outside. It fits COVID period, post-COVID period so well. You're outdoors, you're traveling, you can involve a lot of people. Let's say someone can't bike at all, doesn't want to bike at all. Could they come along? Absolutely. We have these support vehicles. You can drive along. You can help for a day. So September 10th, November 14th, all that wethepeopleride.org or votecommongood.com. You can get links to all these places. So Paul, I am, as Harvey Milk would say, I am here to recruit you and everybody watching and listening. Maybe you can't join us on the border, but maybe you can. Here's what's happened. Most people I've talked to about this, as I brought it up, they've had reactions similar to yours. Like, what are you people thinking about? And then they say almost initially, oh, I can't do that. I can't bike. Then they think about it a little longer and they'll say something like, maybe, there's a period in October,
right.
Maybe I could come down for just a couple days. Like, where are you going to be October 10th to the 15th?
Yeah, I mean, but you'll get down to Florida Panhandle, which is the closest you'll be to me, probably in early November, I guess.
Yeah, we would be coming into Florida in first week of November. We're only in Florida for about a week or so. We can get across Florida.
Maybe Henry and I could bike 20 miles with you or something.
There you go. And look, you could fly in. We're going to be traveling with bikes with us for people to hop on. You don't even have to bring your own bike. I mean,
you are organized.
In fact, we're traveling with bikes that are electric assisted. You don't even have to pedal the bikes the whole way.
And it'll be flat down there in Florida, too.
This is the easiest bike ride you could do from San Diego to St. Augustine, Florida. Nothing to it. You don't even have to have your own bike. And if you hop on one of ours, you don't even have to pedal it the whole way. Or you get pedal assist, whatever. I don't know how those electric bikes work, but they help you move along.
That's awesome.
So this truly is the idea. We want people to, they could fly in, they could drive in, they could hop out of their car, get on one of our bikes, and start moving along with all the other folks going. So anyway, we'd love to have you. So that's why I'm in my biking outfit, in my little Captain America looking, biking outfit.
Do you have the pants on too? Get up, stand back. Let's do the whole thing.
Okay. So I don't. For those watching, I just have a regular old pair of black sweatpants because, as a middle-aged man in the middle of a pandemic, what else would you wear?
That's exactly right.
But I often do wear the padded shorts with the bibs.
Yeah.
The whole
very sexy.
Thing.
Yeah. I know.
And this is a big concern for a lot of people. They just are like, I'm not wearing one of those goofy outfits. Well, of course you don't have to wear one of these goofy outfits. You can wear any outfit you like and chafe all you want and feel like. There's a reason. There's a reason people dress like this. It's certainly
Oh,
not
I'm sure
fashion.
there is.
When
Yeah,
you're on a,
no,
when you're on a
no.
bike. All right. Hey, well, enough of that. Happy Science Friday Day to you. And we would love to chat a little bit about what's happening in the world of science. Paul, two big stories that we decided we were going to talk about today. One of these is from Vox News. Vox put out a story with the headline, "Science had a misinformation problem before COVID, and scientists want to fix it." It's an interesting article from scientists saying sometimes the way science is talked about by the media and by scientists creates a set of conditions in which people feel like they can't trust science as much as they want to. And at least, Jevin West and Carl Bergstrom are trying to address that. What do you think about this idea that there's too much pressure to publish stories that the people will pay attention to, and things get boosted and a little too much juice in the air?
Yeah, I think it happens. I think it's been happening for a while, and I mean, science is pretty much an establishment at this point. It has been for decades and decades, and like any establishment, it achieves a kind of momentum and sort of got to find ways to keep itself going. I'm not saying that the scientific results are not coming in, but what I found really interesting about this article was that it said that the published results is like only 15% of published results are negative results. We didn't find X. The answer is
Yes.
no. And that's not nearly as sexy as, oh, look what we found.
Got it.
This,
Yes.
and I assure you that the ratio of actual studies done, the ratio of negative to positive is not 15 to 85. So what's happening is a lot of results are not getting published that might be really useful for scientists to know, because scientists are deeply interested in negative results. The public is not. And so the fact is that the system definitely favors positive results. But from a scientific point of view, both are useful. Both are important.
That is so interesting. That part of the work for a scientist is to determine what is not true.
And it happens all. That's and what they suggested. Yeah, I would say that probably more than half. And what they suggested, I thought was phenomenal, which is like base publication not on results, but on the experiment and the study itself. In other words, get somebody to agree to publish your work before you actually do the work, based on design of experiment and so forth, which itself will relay the seriousness and of the work. Whether the result is positive or negative, it's going to be good work. You can tell that before it's done.
And there's
but that requires more effort. It's slower.
It's also, the article was suggesting, and I've heard some other people on another, NPR has a science show on Fridays, and I heard someone talking on that show called Science Friday, that there's a particular pressure put on research scientists, especially, to be producing papers and to be garnering attention for the work that they're doing, and that engine that drives that causes the kinds of studies that are talked about, not just that are done, but just trying to think about, like, which part of this are we gonna make available for the mass audiences. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Is that part of the reality of a research college or a university or a magazine?
I have not experienced that myself, but I suspect that with certain topics, the topics that I've worked on have been, within fairly niche stuff within astrophysics. That I mean, yeah, we got some popular press off some of it, but not very much. It wasn't the kind of thing like you see about around COVID or something like that, or even around, are eggs good for you?
Back to our eggs question. Yeah, can I eat 4 eggs a day?
But I have no doubt. So my personal experience doesn't really connect with that, but I have no doubt that it's true.
And this article then went on to say that in some other countries there has been a practice of paying researchers to have published works. In China, there was an example of paying up to $165,000 for published work by universities and research institutes, but they've tried to ban that. So in some other, and this is the thing about science. Science isn't just like, scientists are not bound to the one country or the other. It's not like a sports league.
Right.
Every scientist is interacting with every other scientist all over the world.
Around the world, yeah.
And if some places are being have a financial model that's driving certain kinds of outcomes, could that create this level of distrust?
It could. And I think the situation that you mentioned in China is especially egregious, but it does happen. There's always another motive other than the truth.
Yeah.
Because people need to keep their jobs, and get tenure. And this always pushes people, and that, I don't think all that's unhealthy, but if left unchecked, it can produce. And you also have journals, some journals are more questionable than others too. So the quality of journals sometimes doesn't always remain as high as it should.
And here's one of the paragraphs from this article I thought was particularly interesting. It says, a claim that scientists wouldn't make in their actual paper, the scientific paper, can often be slipped into a university press release about the paper. And the press release may then be turned around verbatim by science communicators or journalists. With the speed of the academic publishing industry, which some estimates say put out 200,000 scientific papers on COVID alone last year.
Wow.
The authors of this article say there's little room for nuance in the interactions. And I can just imagine that that's the case, right? If you're at a university and your scientists are working on something and your job is to be the communications person, and you hear, you sort of see a general write-up and you write it in a particular way that's real catchy, and the scientist is like, well, that's not exactly what we would, how we would.
It happens all of the time.
Yeah.
Because the university is putting a lot of pressure on these writers to make the university. I mean, Emory, I live right by Emory. And I'm sure it's true with all, major universities like that, but they just work so hard to make themselves look so good.
Yes.
And it's just, it's really a machine. And, and I know the writers feel the pressure.
Well, the thing I appreciate about this article is that every industry has to self-police, right? And it's great that the scientists are saying, hey, let's not blame it on the communications department. Let's not blame it on the media. Let's not blame it on the public. We'll take this on ourselves. Let's find a way to be better about communicating. And, as the economist that's on with us regularly says, on the other hand, because the economists love that bit, I sure don't want scientists saying less, right? Like scientists need to say more. We need more talk from scientists, more communication, more public engagement. And I just hope for all of us as common good listeners to science that we would even give claims that come from scientists, like give it a minute to sort of soak in, and not assume that everything you hear at first. Like the number of friends that I have that'll say things like, I mean, the CDC, who can believe these people? They said don't wear masks, and now they're saying wear masks. I mean, do these people even know? I'm like, oh, give them a minute. Yes, a pandemic came and it broke the rules of how they thought viruses were spread. So they gave information based on old information. Now they're giving information based on new information, and that's going to be different. Isn't that a success? Well, yeah, of course, but I don't really know. Like that.
It really is hard to communicate to people that knowledge is constructed, and it's not constructed in a straight line. You go forward, you go backward, you go in circles, you go down blind alleys, dead ends. And it's just a messy process. And what they want, what people generally want, and I don't blame them because I want it to, is like, here's the answer,
Yep.
That's it. And there's no fuzz on it, but that's not the way it operates. And people experienced that with Fauci last year saying, don't wear masks, like last March, a year ago, last April, whatever. And then a month later, it's like, no, turns out, I was mistaken. It really is best to wear masks. And here's the evidence for that.
Yeah.
People just, and especially they don't want to hear it if it contradicts their sort of narrative.
Right. And if they don't like the person saying it, it makes it even easier for someone to say,
if that person represents a political viewpoint or something that they don't.
So sometimes we get overblown headlines that maybe capture your attention, and we don't want to play into the fact that they work. But then the other day I saw this headline: are we doing enough to protect Earth from asteroids? Which to your point, and this from, again, Scientific America, one of the science journals I pay attention to, public,
rightfully so.
Popular journals.
They are solid.
But here's this headline, which the answer, as you brought up earlier, from a scientific study could be, yes, we are. There is no problem here. We're doing enough. But I suspected that if, Scientific American is going to put out a headline and then Apple News is going to pick it up and shove it to me in my Apple News feed, that the question, are we doing enough to protect Earth from asteroids? The answer might be maybe not. And that's and that captures your attention. Now, Paul, I will tell you, I sent this to you immediately after I saw it and said, we have to talk about this. I didn't know that we were trying to protect Earth from asteroids.
Absolutely.
How are we doing that?
It is a mathematical certainty that we will be hit. Not tomorrow, Doug, but it is going to happen with something that is going to create a lot of problems. It is going to happen one day.
Has there ever been a time? What can we do? Has there ever been a time when the Earth has been hit by a large asteroid and caused some sort of a cataclysmic experience? Is that something?
Yeah, the one landed in 1909 in Siberia, leveled thousands and thousands of square miles of trees. It was heard for, 3,000 or 4,000 miles away. It was a huge explosion. I don't know how many, how many kilotons of TNT it might have been, but maybe even, it might have been in the megaton range. I really don't remember. Tunguska is the name of it, but yes, it happens. And it happened and happened again in Siberia just a few years ago, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago, maybe 20. And it was over a populated area. Yeah. And the sonic boom shattered windows and like 100 people went to the hospital. And stuff is out there, and you can't turn gravity off.
And apparently, according to the scientists, that happened back in the Paleo age as well, right? And
it happened a long time ago. It happened a lot more often.
Why is that? Why was there one that gave us an ice age and blew up so much dust in the air that the sun was blotted out, or the intensity of the sun was blotted out?
Back 66 million years ago, there was one that did that and basically wiped out the dinosaurs, except for the birds, who are basically what became the dinosaurs that didn't die. But it happened more in the past because think of the solar system. It used to just be a bunch of little rocks, but those rocks have gravity, and so they coalesce into larger rocks. And over time, it gets kind of cleaned out, vacuumed out.
How does talk about that? How does a rock coalesce into another rock?
If you remember that all asteroids, whatever you want to call them, billions of years ago, are attracted to all the other ones by gravity. And the larger those rocks get, the more they pull in further rocks, because the larger the object is, the more powerful the gravitational force is. So over time, these coalesce into planets.
But how do they if I think about if I take two rocks and I put them next to each other, they might hit, but they don't become one new rock.
Right. Over time, what would happen is they would become that if you had a bunch of rocks that were enough of them, the gravity would become strong enough to where they would essentially crush themselves into a spherical shape.
Wow.
If you got a pile of rocks big enough in space, say 10 miles across, 50 miles across, it would the gravity would be strong enough to where it would crush itself into a spherical shape. They would essentially get, gravity.
That's still happening, right? In the galaxy somewhere?
Elsewhere, planetary systems are being formed right now.
Mm-hmm. In our
other stars.
In our arena of space, there's nothing like that currently going on. Like we're at a gravitational experience different than that. Like there's no new planets being.
Not in our solar system, no. But there's still a lot of that junk left over from 4 billion years ago out there, and that's what we're talking about. Comets is essentially what this is, but they're made of ice, not rock. The asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars is just filled with this stuff. And those asteroids sometimes get thrown off course to come to the inner solar system. And we have a whole, NASA maintains a list of 10,000 objects called nearer Earth objects. And if you want to, if you ever don't feel sufficiently existentially freaked out, you can go to their website and peruse this list and see just how close these objects get to us.
And they're tracking those and being like,
those are the ones they know about. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I like to play the person who doesn't understand outer space role here because I don't understand outer space, and I know other people don't either, and I'm fascinated by it. There's this big push to say, is there water on Mars? And I mean, we have talked about it, lakes. We want to know. Water seems to be this miracle element that would change our view of what's possible in space. Mm-hmm. So it feels very rare, water. And then you said a moment ago, comets, which are ice and not rock, makes the little dingy in my brain go off, and says, where's the water coming for these comets? Where's the
How
ice?
Do you mean? Well, out beyond Jupiter, basically. All of the big moons, in fact, some of Jupiter's moons as well, are just big ice balls. I mean, there's a lot of ice out there.
So water is plentiful in space.
Ice is plentiful. Liquid water is really what they're looking for on Mars. The evidence of liquid water in the past. And there's definitely evidence for that on Mars.
So I guess I was assuming that looking for water in space is like looking for water in the desert, assuming it's just dry there. You're saying, no, the difference is it's frozen versus liquid. That's a new one to me.
The important thing for finding life in the universe is looking at places where it's kind of like the Goldilocks thing. It's not too hot, so the water would just vaporize into steam, and it's not too cold to where water would be ice. What you're looking for is what's called the habitable zone. And the Earth, of course, falls right in the middle of the sun's habitable zone where water can exist as a liquid form. That's what is really the focus.
Wow. So H2O is not the thing that's rare in space. It's not rare. That's quite well. See that I feel like I have been made a slight bit better today because I've been walking around for all these years. Because I just hear so much about space. Like if we could find water in space, and I guess I wasn't someone who was saying, "Oh,
they mean like water, right?"
I thought it was the elements.
No, H2O is not uncommon. No.
Well, I wonder how many people know that. That feels like it would be worth a headline. Lots of water or lots of H2O. So I guess the thing is like water. I refer to everything. I refer to water when it's above my head in a cloud, which I know we've talked about before, and I still don't understand how water floats in clouds and then gets so heavy it falls on you. That's pretty amazing. So when it's up in the sky in vapor form, I still think it's water. When it's frozen in a glass and making my drink cold, I still think of it as water.
Okay. So it's just a language issue. I guess
for me, and I don't know if that's true for other people too. it's been helpful to me here in this conversation to think, oh no, what we're talking about is the state of liquid.
Yeah. That's the important thing.
What a
and
day.
Mars used to be covered with it, with liquid water, with water.
And now it's not. If you're only listening on the podcast, Paul is now taken to lifting up a glass and pointing at liquid in it because his co-host apparently doesn't know the difference between water and ice. Is there ice? Is there ice on? I wish I had an ice glass to jingle. Is there ice on Mars?
Yes, under the surface, so sort of like permafrost, like in the tundra we have here on Earth. Yeah, it's there. There you go.
This is great. I just would have bet that if I talked to if I had 100 friends, I'd talk to 100. I can't say it. If I talked to 6 friends, they and I said, is there H2O on Mars? They would say, well, they're trying to find it. I don't think they would say, well, sure, it's there in frozen form. They're just trying to see if it's there in liquid form. So this has been incredibly helpful to know what.
Well, good.
And so that's all about heat. So that's what they're looking for: heat from a star, a sun, or heat from the molten of a planet.
Yeah, and Mars, like all other planets, used to be a lot warmer. And when it was warmer, it had standing water and flowing water on its surface.
I know we're out of time here, but why did it get cold? Why did Mars?
Think about pulling a couple potatoes out of the oven. Like they're hot at first. They were hot because the earlier solar system was really hot. There's a lot of bombardment of objects. It was really hot. So basically, over time, the potatoes cool, right? The big ones cool slower than the small ones. Mars is cooled quite a bit. It's pretty small. The Earth is
so at a restaurant. Someone pulls the potatoes once they're cooked out, and then they put them under a warming lamp. And you're saying we just happen to live on a planet that has a big warming lamp called the sun, and that's what's keeping this warm.
No, I'm talking about the internal heat of the Earth, like internal heat. Yes. Oh, and that's also our atmosphere that makes us warmer. If we didn't have our atmosphere, it would be a whole different world.
Is the Earth kept warm by the internal heat of the core of the planet?
Partially, but mostly it's the atmosphere. Yes. Let me think of it the way I said.
We're asking the astrologist to become
when you say the Earth stays warm, do you mean just the fact you go outside on a nice day, it's 75 degrees?
No, I mean that warm. It's not like Mars, like it's
partially because it's got a lot of heat still in it, which is evidenced by volcanoes and earthquakes and
And
like
Mars, as far as we know, that's all slowed down. All the heat in the middle of the planet, the molten, it's dead.
They have huge volcanoes there, but they're all dead. Huge. By far the largest mountains in the solar system on Mars. I'll tell you what, next time we get together, let's just do a Mars thing. We'll just talk about Mars for the whole.
Let's do it, and that will help our friend Michael, who writes such fascinating stuff. Common Good Science with Paul Wallace is appointment TV for me. He says stuff like that. So we'll tell you, Novelli, we're going to send you a whole time on Mars. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get after all of this that we've been talking about through the lens of Mars in one of these episodes in a couple of weeks. How about that?
That sounds great.
And we can chat about it as we bike across the country sometime, which,
that also sounds great.
To do that September to November. And by the way, someone was asking, hey, can you tell us where there's the map and the dates of the ride? Yes, they're at wethepeopleride.org. And
write that down, everybody.
Can take
wethepeopleride.org.
wethepeopleride.org. Or voteCommonGood.com. There's a big link right there. It'll take you there. You can see the dates, where we're going to be, how we're going to go, how you can get signed up, how you can host a community ride in your own neighborhood.
And this all came out of your little brain, didn't it?
A lot of this came out of my little brain.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I like the way you think.
I like the way you think, astrophysicist, professor, and Pastor Paul Wallace. Thanks for being around today. Hey, and all of you, we like the way you all think. Jeremy, Terry, Melissa, Michael, all who have chimed in on the chat today. We appreciate all of you being around on these days too. And we will be back with you next week. Going to have a little bit of a different schedule next week. Some of the regulars are away. Some newcomers are coming in for the week. So keep your eyes peeled for the podcast and for the live stream as it comes out next week. And thanks so much for being with us today, all. Common Good Friday to you.